Was there ever a period in your life where you actually thought about going the conventional path or working a corporate job, or did you always just realize that you were cut from a different cloth than most people?
Yeah. I don't know if there was. So I went to community college because I didn't know what else to do. And that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every year from basically high school on, it was like, I'm going to be different this year. I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to study. And then like, you know, sleep deprivation kicks in, playing AOK too late at night kicks in. And then you just don't care anymore because you're so far behind. I'm telling you, like when it comes to schooling, it's just so not set up for, I think, humans really. Like, and some people are going to do fine. Some people aren't. Most people aren't, I don't think. It's also very, I think, scarcity kind of focus where it's like, if you don't do this, you get a bad grade and then you'll be shamed. Like a lot of it, I just think is wrong for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work for me, you know? And it's like, but if you gave me something that was like Age of Empires or poker, where it's like, okay, this is a mastery-based game. You can get in the flow state. You can connect what you do to some kind of outcome and you can control that outcome. That's what entrepreneurship is, right? Nobody told me that in high school, dude. I remember I was probably like 20 years old or something where somebody's like, yeah, that guy owns that gas station. And I said to him, what do you mean he owns it? I thought like these mega corporations own everything.
Yeah.
Nobody in my entire life had basically been like, yeah, you can own a small business. I'm telling you, it was not a thing. Entrepreneurship was not a thing. Went to college, whatever. And then even before then, poker and like the Chris Moneymaker phase, that was like a thing that led me into kind of being an entrepreneur because you manage your own money, you set your own schedule, but you still got to put hours in. I would grind. They call it grinding. You spend like 8 hours a day or longer playing tables online, going to the casino, whatever, right? So, yeah.
What do you think makes a good entrepreneur through your experience, and then also just through like reading? You just consume so much information. I'm curious what your take would be on that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about being a good entrepreneur is if there's definitely principles that are applicable to everybody. Like if you can't deal with loss and things not working out, then you'll never be an entrepreneur because that's pretty much like all you do all the time. And then you're just trying to like keep swerving to what works, right? So you have to be able to deal with that. You have to be able to think long term because you can potentially make no money. I mean, like for example, I just bought the company back. I don't make any money from that. I haven't made any money from that business in 9 months. That means I've not cut a single check from a business for 9 months, which is kind of like my primary thing. I make money from other things because I had to, but it's like, it's not even a question. It's like, this is my business. I built this thing. I have a path. I'm going places, but there's no question where I don't just show up today because I'm not making any money. Because then the entire thing would go away. That's not even a thought in my mind. Right. You know what I'm saying? And if I start getting to the point where it's hard, and it does get hard, and I kind of get sick of doing the same thing, which I'm actually slowly getting to that point, and that's why I've been hiring more people and doing more automations. Is like I kind of want to get out of that the basics, which was good when I bought it back to get back into the business, and I got to get out of it again. But then I can now decide: do I want to like sell this thing? Do I want to grow it? Like I have optionality, you know. And that's why I think about business is so amazing because when you build a business and it lives on its own with its own customers, it's its own living entity. It's like a child that becomes like a teenager and maybe eventually an adult, and it just lives and breathes and does its thing. And as long as you're kind of nurturing it a little bit, feeding a little bit, it can even grow, you know? And so it gives you such amazing optionality, but you have to be like willing that if you have like a down quarter or you get sued or you lose a pallet or one of a million things happens, you still have to show up tomorrow and get it done. You know what I'm saying? And some people love that. And like, I guess you could even say I do like that because it's like connected to what I do, my mastery, like, you know, outcomes, whatever. But not everybody should do it. Because like I used to think most people should. Nope. But I think everybody could at least maybe be like a freelancer or at least like have some clients or like do some client work or like at least be a remote employee. Like if you're going to work for a company, start by controlling where you live. So if you want to be remote, negotiate that and then live anywhere in the world. Then you can start maybe acting where you're more of a services business where you like work for multiple companies and you're not beholden to any one and you set your own terms. You do what you did do in this big faceless corporation, but now they just pay you, companies pay you a service fee every month and you can fire clients, you can take on new clients, you can grow, you can not grow. I just think like almost everybody could probably do that. That's kind of like the new gig economy Naval talks about too, where he's like, eventually, even like Hollywood, for example, you'll have people come together, they'll do a movie. In fact, it's already kind of like this, I guess, but for all kinds of businesses. You come together with a bunch of gig providers and then you do the thing and then you just disperse and go like do the next one or go somewhere else, you know? So yeah, not everybody should be an entrepreneur though.
Well, that was going to be one of my follow-up questions to Harry's point is when you're talking about like the spirit of entrepreneurship, risk tolerance, kind of having blinders on, like front sight vision, blocking out a lot of these other things that could happen as an entrepreneur. Do you think that behavior, can everyone learn that? Can that be trained? Can that be programmed? Or is some of this stuff just like intrinsic?
The answer is nurture is always going to overcome nature. That's what I believe. Because let's take an example of somebody that was traumatized as a child. Like tragic shit happens every day. Shouldn't, but it does. And we all have our own traumas, and they're all relative to us. And I don't think we should have the victim Olympics trying to compare who has more traumas or not, because every person I've ever met has trauma.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, whatever your worst trauma is your worst trauma. What the fuck does that have to do with my trauma?
Mm-hmm.
My trauma is my trauma. Your trauma is your trauma, right? So aside from that, it's like, if you have those traumas and you had it really rough growing up, then you can still have the tools in your environment to adapt and learn and grow. Or you can look at it as poor me, I'm a victim. You give up your agency and you're basically a victim and you're stuck and you don't grow for your entire life. That's why I believe nurture is always more powerful than nature. And if you actually look at like what we can do with modern technology and all the therapies and tools we have around in modern medicine, and like we can control so much of maybe nature's mistakes that may have been made through, you could say, nurture, which is just like controlling things from an environmental perspective, right? So I believe everything and absolutely everything can be trained. But most people aren't going to do that, because if you want to develop skills as an entrepreneur, you have to be around other entrepreneurs. And if you're already around other entrepreneurs, you're probably an entrepreneur. It's this weird, like, is it the cart or the horse, or I don't know, right? But it's just the way it is. And if you aspire to be that, you have to look at the people around you. Are they victim-based thinking, scarcity mindset? Are they like, do they think entrepreneurship is weird or too risky? Or like your parents, they're always chapping in your ear about get this job or get that job or whatever. Until you break free from that, or at least balance it out with other people that think entrepreneurship is normal, you won't do it. Like, I will bet on it. You will never do it until you change that first. And this also applies to every single behavioral change in your life. Whatever you want is first determined by what's around you in your environment. You go there first. And that's the hardest thing to do, though, because like it might be like somebody you love. It might be a significant other. It might be your family. It might be all these things. For years and years, you've been shamed into like, you have to be this way, whatever. It is really hard to break cultural indoctrination and things around you that way, right? And so your desire has to be so much so, and this is where I think that desire, and like some people kind of naturally fall into these things. I think that is there. And you could even say in my situation, maybe I was lucky that I did have a small family, right? And like my dad was always very supportive, but I mean, we don't have like a lot of aunts and uncles, like one sister. I'm basically like the head of the household. So I've always had this freedom where like, I kind of just like lead everyone else. But what if I had all these other people that were like, kind of like role models to me, and they all lived a different lifestyle, and that wasn't as cool? I mean, I probably wouldn't have ended up this way. I don't know. Maybe I would have. Maybe I would have been like that outlier that like went out and did my own thing. It's hard to say, right? But I do think it's some combination of both of those, and we can still boil it around to the first principles. If you want to do something different with your life, you have to go to the people and things around you and the content you're consuming. And until you change that, nothing you want to change will happen, like for sure.
Yeah.